Hello everyone. I Radhika on behalf of Educo Hire welcome you all. Firstly, I want to thank all the participants and speaker over here. Le- let's start this let's start this evening with a wonderful quote. The greatest glory in living lies not in never falling, but in rising every time we fall. Now I want to introduce Educo Hire. Educo Hire is a joint venture of www.mytrustitutor.com and Educo Pro. Educo Hire features K-12 teacher job application in top CBSE schools, ICSE schools, IGSE schools, IB schools, preschools, play schools, primary schools, state board schools, and colleges. Educo Hire is basically for the one who is looking for or searching for a job. Educators looking to hire teachers can post online teaching job vacancies for free. Easily manage student recruitment portal. I am glad to announce that Educo Hire has came up with a new project, Educo Train. Educo Train is a training and development solution from the family of Educo Pro. Educo Pro is a leading education management services and mytrustitutor.com to cater to the needs of skill development and skill upliftment for teachers and educators in the new era of education. Now you have a question in your mind why to join Educo Train? Yeah, what is Educo Train is? So we at Educo Pro believe that children and students of the 21st century need different skills and different approaches. So we are moving from authoritarian classroom to collaborative classrooms. We are moving from dynamic of rote learning to creative and critical learning. What we teach to a student today will not be relevant when student will start their career. Traditional jobs and businesses are adapting to the new reality. So we believe that teachers need to continuously get trained and upskilled. Educo Train will have dynamic faculty and trainers from different streams of life, from the world of education, from the world of corporate sectors, from the world of YouTubers, freelancers, and entrepreneurs, from the world of scientists, creative artists, from the world of young achievers. Now, today, I want to introduce our speaker. Today, our speaker is Dr. Aarti Sunil Bhatia ma'am. She is a freelance behavior counselor and trainer with over 17 years of experience. She operates her own enterprise in the name and style, Janet Counseling and Conversational English Training Center. She had been a visiting counselor for the girls' shelter Naunihal at Kharghar, Navi Mumbai, and also a visiting counselor at Yak Public School, Khopoli. She is a certified self-esteem coach for children. She is an NLP practitioner and professional life coach. She is a certified English language trainer. She conducts soft skill training workshop for parent, teachers, and students. She also conducts session on good touch and bad touch for the little angels. She strives to work towards the holistic growth of a child as a good human being and then a professional. Her special focus is to train teachers to adopt best practices in soft skills, nurture talent within to deepen the learning curve and deliver the exemplary. That's really great to know about Sunil Bhatia ma'am. It's an amazing profile you have.
Thank you so much, Radhika. I think we are good to go. Once the videos are on, then only can we start the session. All our teachers here, right? And I need to see a lot of interaction in the chat box as well, so that we get to know we belong to the same fraternity. We need to enjoy. I guess all of us are proud, right? You are proud of being a teacher, aren't you? You can unmute yourself initially and speak something. Aren't you proud of yourself being a teacher? About myself, and anyways you have registered, so you know all those profile details were given there. So I'll just start with a small video. Look at the video and then we'll discuss about it, right? Only thing is, if there is any issue related to the sound, let me know. Yes, so sound was there, but anyways, there were no dialogue. So even if you are missed on sound, so now this particular video, like, what is the takeaway? Does it apply to teachers anyway? Yes, Indra ma'am, if you would like to speak, see, good evening. So nice to at least see few videos on. So maybe some interaction from your side.
Maybe I thought it could be a grandfather greeting a granddaughter for the Christmas.
Meeting granddaughter for the Christmas. Okay, what was he doing actually throughout? Like, what could you see him doing?
Lifting something. I couldn't get the complete meaning of it.
Anyone else who could at least come up with?
I could see the emotional bonding of sharing the this thing, joys and sorrows, and sharing it together, and that emotional support by the.
Okay, that emotional support was there, but what was he doing? Like, he was doing something.
He was practicing all the time to lift so that he could go on Christmas and lift the granddaughter.
So that was the goal in his mind. So that goal was there, and he was quite perseverant. He was not giving up. That goal was there, and that was motivating him to do that act. Otherwise, he was not into any bodybuilding or anything. Only his goal was that I should lift my granddaughter. That pleasure, that happiness he wanted. And for that, he kept on working hard. And this is what it is now. Like when we talk about anyone, be it in any profession, right now we are talking to teachers. So we say that for us, this is what is important. You need to be perseverant. We cannot give up, and goals have to be there. And to reach the goal, we need to plan, right? So here also his planning was there. Like he knew how much time he has. So he kept on practicing, seeing to it that he reaches the goal. So planning is very important when we speak about any act, and especially when we talk about teachers. So like we'd like to quote lines from Jim Rohn. What he says is, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So that is what it is. We need to plan, right? So whatever we have to do, goals have to be achieved, but goals will be achieved only when we plan. So all are in, I guess, Radhika, do we have some more to get in, or we are locking the waiting room?
Do you want me to lock the waiting room?
No, that's up to you. Whatever is your process. If you want to keep it open for some more time, that's fine.
Yeah, it's
What?
okay. But actually, some participants maybe join afterwards.
Okay, okay, fine, fine. Whatever is the protocol at your end, you can go ahead with it. Okay, so we start with the things. Now, see, being in this particular profession, so I guess all of us are into teaching profession, maybe teaching in schools or colleges or wherever. So can I quickly have in the chat box just to know that I'm catering to which kind of audience, how many are teaching in schools, to which class you are teaching. If you can speak out, that would be great. But if you want to just put in the chat box, that is also fine.
I'm Indra.
Yes,
I've
great.
been developing teacher developer for Royal Society of Chemistry. We train teachers on a user-for-me inspirational program for science teachers. That's what I'm currently doing. For the
Okay,
past
great.
1 year, due to COVID, we have not been doing it. But past 20 years, I'm into teachers training.
Okay, so nice to have you here. Okay, so we have grade 12 teacher, secondary teacher, vice principal, class 11, 12, Shailendra Mishra from Shishuvan teaching in elementary, class 11, 12th in school. Great. Do we have any teacher who's teaching in primary or pre-primary? All are teaching higher grades. Great, great, great. Shishuvan Middle School, class 4 to 6, Asha. Great. Pre-primary coordinator, Arpana Gupta, 4 to 6, secondary teacher. Fine, great, great. So nice to see all the educators, all the teachers here. Great. So now here we need to understand that we have always got a tag attached to this particular profession as a noble profession. How many of you agree it is a noble profession?
100%.
100% noble
Agreed.
profession?
Yes, ma'am, 100%.
Everyone agrees?
100%.
It is a noble profession. Okay, so now I just want to see, like maybe you can raise your hand or you can show me a thumbs up, because since I can't see you, I need some way to understand. Okay, let us, we can take just raising the hand itself will do. How many of you are in this profession by chance, not by choice? By chance. How many are by chance? Can raise your hands. So if I don't see any hands, that means now Geeta Khanna, your hand is up for some other reason or for this one by chance. So I see none of them raising hands for this. Yes, Miss Geeta, can you unmute yourself and tell me if you have? I don't know. Maybe this hand was up initially before I started the question. So all are, it seems all are here by choice. So by choice, that means anyway, then you will have to accept that this is a noble profession. And this is a noble profession because this is anyway the beginning of all the other professions. Okay, let me put up something here and then we proceed further. Now let's move ahead. When we talk about teaching profession as a noble profession, and since everyone says that you are into it because of your choice, so there is like that one step we move ahead, where if it was by chance, then we had to speak something. Can we? Okay, now today's agenda is what we are going to talk. I think so there's some background sound somewhere. Can we keep them mute? Challenges of the profession, handling the challenges, and effective pedagogy. These are the three things which we are going to talk about, we are going to work on today. Now, can I know what are the challenges of this profession? See, whichever profession you are into, there are, of course, challenges. It's not that any profession comes without challenges. We are not talking about difficulties, we are talking about challenges. So, can you, some of you at least, unmute yourself and tell me the challenges which you come across in this particular profession? Yes, Ms. Asha, would you like to?
Yes, ma'am. Children are from different family backgrounds and different IQ levels, and we have to teach the same time. At the same time, we have to deal every IQ level child accordingly.
Okay, that's one of the challenges. Great. Dr. Pradeep, would you like to say something?
There are so many challenges. As rightly Madam has told that the background matters when it comes to the children's because maybe a poor family, rich family, and their paying capacity, and but when it comes to joining to the institutions, they are
Okay.
supposed to be treated in the same way. So there are n number of challenges, not few, to be
Okay,
handled
so
at different levels.
great. So one challenge which both of you have come up with, which seems to be a common challenge with every teacher, is like handling students. What about handling management? What about handling your colleagues?
Moreover, ma'am, some parents are illiterate who cannot guide their
Parents, right? Yes, parents are also one of the challenge.
parents are illiterate and they can't understand the importance of studies, so that's why they cannot guide their children. And moreover, economic problems also. The people come from different economic backgrounds, and those also just act as a
So
this
when
thing.
you are in this profession, this is one of the biggest challenge where you are dealing with children, you are dealing with their parents. That is a challenge. When you talk about your colleagues, that also comes up as a challenge at times, because there are a lot of internal politics or internal issues going on. Then there are challenges with the management. What about the challenges which you go through before reaching the school?
Demand of
It will
ma'am,
be
demand of good result from school. School also expects us to give
So
good result,
that is
and
the management.
in a
it
short
will
span
be
of time.
Yes,
Yeah,
that is the
that's also a
management
challenge.
part. Yes, Dr.
it will
Pratik.
be it will be, madam. Challenges are all stakeholder. Stakeholder which belongs to the institute. There will be challenges in
There
all
will
corners.
there will be challenges in on corners, yes. So now what I'm saying, when you reach the school, before reaching the school also you have some challenges which you overcome, like those challenges which are at your family front. So you are going through a lot of challenges. So these are the separate challenges which you find in teaching profession, like handling challenges at home. Anyway, that is there in every profession. Once you go to work, you have to look after the family, or you have to struggle and all that. But these are the special challenges which we find in school. Now handling those challenges will come up as we discuss. We come up with those challenges and how we are handling them. And when we talk about effective pedagogy. Now effective pedagogy is like what is pedagogy in your according to you? Now this particular term at times is being mispronounced as pedagogy as well, but exact pronunciation what goes is pedagogy. So what is pedagogy according to you? I would like all of you, at least someone else also, to come up with your view. What do you understand by this particular term? Forget about effective.
May I speak, ma'am?
Yes, Asha.
May I speak?
Yes, Asha, you may come up.
Yes, according to me, pedagogy means step-by-step teaching, just in a systematic way, in a systematic manner.
Okay, fine. Anyone else would like to come up with something? What do you understand by this particular word? What comes to your mind? It has not to be the exact word to word definition what you get in the Google. If you try to search for it, I want just what comes to your mind when you hear this word, or when you apply this word, when you talk to people regarding
the strategy which you apply for teaching a particular subject or topic.
Okay,
For
great.
different classes.
Okay, great. So teaching skills about that particular topic is pedagogy, right? Anybody else?
I think art of teaching and learning.
Art of teaching and learning, same thing. Yes, that is what is pedagogy. So teaching, basically when you talk about pedagogy, it is coming as teaching only. And yes, while teaching you are learning. That is your skill set, that is what you are working on. So pedagogy is an art of teaching, as Indra ma'am said, that we understand that this is the simple definition we come up with. Then teacher teaches not the blackboard, whiteboard, OHP or PPT and etc. Because at times what happens, we have that mindset like, if all these skills are there, if all these things are there, then the teaching happens. No, it's not that. It's the teacher who is doing the teaching. All these are just, like you can say, though they are the teaching aids, but not necessarily required. Without these teaching aids also things can be done great. At times you have such beautiful PPTs, such beautiful presentations, such beautiful articles, but the person who is trying to communicate, if the communication communication skills of the person is not good, the message doesn't reach. So we don't have to have that mindset or mind block that if you have all these things, then only your teaching is going to improve. At times, some schools even come up with, they force teachers, or teachers feel that if we have teaching aids, we'll have edge on others. No, that is an added advantage. Yes, maybe you are using it, but you should know how to use it. That is what is important. Best way to grab attention of the students, it is by giving them best learning atmosphere. So it is not that you cannot control students. Controlling students means when you are talking about the discipline in the class and you feel that these students cannot be controlled, or they are quite hyperactive or whatever it is. No, you have to see to it, you have to grab their attention. Grabbing their attention means that the learning atmosphere, what you prepare for them, what you give it to them, that has to be the best. So that doesn't go by your subject more. Yes, your subject knowledge is important, but more than that, the learning atmosphere which you provide to them, they should want to come to your class. They should feel that, okay, I have to go to Geeta ma'am's class, I have to attend Asha ma'am's class. If tomorrow Shraddha ma'am's class is there, I cannot bunk school. I have to be there. I enjoy that class. Or be it Pooja, be it Ankita, Raki, anyone. So you have to have that connect with the students. They should look forward. They should want to come to your class. They don't have to come to your class. That should be your thought process while preparing for them. Research also strongly supports that when we talk about the achievement of students' achievement, it is in school especially, it goes by the quality of the teacher. Quality of the teacher is very important here. Quality of the teacher means how she presents herself. Presenting herself is not the physical presence, how she is able to manage, how is she able to create that atmosphere in the class. Sorry. So what is actually quality teaching? Quality teaching is your involving students. It's not that going to the class and you start your lecture and you are not bothered what is going on. That's the reason we keep on saying that we need to have interactive sessions. Engaging them in whatever you are doing. At times it so happens that they are made to read the chapter before they come to the class and they have to get into it, and challenging students. So all these type of activities which, if they are planned, if they happen, that means that atmosphere is which will make the students look forward to your class. It should not be those dry classes where you have the lesson, you are just reading the chapter, or you tell the child that like at times it so happens that teachers get into make them read the chapter one by one, paragraph after paragraph. So in that dry atmosphere, learning doesn't happen, and like you cannot grab the attention of your students. So even I guess some of you might have gone through the latest training which CBSE had made compulsory, that is competency based and experiential learning. So any CBSE teachers who have gone through that training, if anyone is here in this group?
I have.
No one?
I
We have
have.
not gone through that. We have not gone through that training, but experiential learning. We in
You
our
mean to
schools
say the
have
5 webinars, right? You mean to
Yeah.
say there were 5
Yeah,
webinars? You're talking about the
plenty of webinars.
They like
Experiential.
no, actually CBSE had made compulsory for all the schools to get into it through that what was that app which is Divya?
No, I got to
something.
watch that. I watched it in YouTube. That's in CBSE YouTube. Yeah. I
Okay.
watched.
I have
No,
gone
what
through
I'm
one of
saying-
them. I have gone through one of them, which was through
Okay. So this
yeah.
is what actually where they are
It's
saying
But
that
yeah,
available.
it's a
It's
CBSE
available on
one.
Diksha. It's available on
Yeah,
Diksha.
yeah. I have gone through that all.
Diksha.
Yes, yes. I have gone
Yes,
through that and
I just
received the certificate also.
Great. So that is what they're saying. See, that is the in thing. That is that kind of education we need now, where we want to make children get into experiential learning, like what is called as application based learning. It's not that reading those chapters again and again. When we talk about even our examination system, education system, which talks about the exam at the end of the year, and in between every 3 months you have those exams, and one particular chapter a child is made to read again and again and again and again. So that that doesn't make sense, but that is the education system which we have gone into and which we have been following since ages. But now the things are changing, and also whenever, wherever possible, we have to see to it that we get into this type of teaching where children are challenged in the sense they feel that okay, they have to search for something, they need to research, they need to find out, they do on their own certain things. Now, for example, like I'll tell you, especially when you talk about these online classes, they have turned, I find teachers cribbing with this, but I find this has turned out to be a boon as well. You can get into doing a lot of activities with them where they are made to, I'm personally myself doing when I have my students, like even simple grammar topics which they don't want to get into again and again, one particular topic be given to them and they are asked to present it. They are so excited about it. They make their PPTs, they come to the class, they present it, whatever it is, any topic. So they do the research. Some background sound, please mute yourself. So all these different techniques which can be used, and especially for the online classes also, we have a lot of good techniques which you can use to make them engaged and make them enjoy the lessons. So when we say pedagogy is an art of teaching, as you said, but pedagogy, what pedagogy is not, that also has to be understood. Pedagogy is not to teach what learners can learn themselves. That means there are certain basic topics which, like as you say, when like in the primary sections or in the lower classes, fine, they are to be done, but certain topics they go on getting repeated year after year, though with some more enhancement here and there. So making them do that or just reading to the class, that doesn't make sense. So that pedagogy is not doing something what they can do. So even if you talk about a prose chapter in English, where you have that prose chapter, the lesson which has to be done, there's no point standing in the class and making them read, that they can do it on their own. Instead of that, doing something related to the topic, having some value-based question here and there, that which will give them some time to ponder, some brainstorming that is to be done, which will help them in improving their language skills as well. Or whatever it is, be it a science topic, when you talk about just water conservation, they start talking about it, they start reading about it even in second and third standard as they move ahead. And ultimately, though it's not that the basics change, yes, they do learn better about it, they learn more about it. But if we ask them to get into some research, find out something, and nowadays everyone has technology on their palms, they have their smartphones, they have everything, so asking them to do research and come to the class and talk about it, that makes sense. That is what is required in today's time. Okay, now 3 basic elements. When we say, see, basic elements of pedagogy is like, again, these are the basics. When we talk about the basics, these are some things which are considered as conventionally we go by it, but ultimately it is much more than that. So effective pedagogy is what? It's your preparation and your subject knowledge. Yes, that is bound to be there. Without that, anyways, you cannot be there. So you have to have some preparedness. You have to plan. You have to have some goal set in mind. And also your knowledge is required. That is the reason you are there. Class interaction, challenging and involving students. That is what is required. And being a mentor and a role model, you need to be their role model. That means they should want to emulate you. They should like to come to your class. A role model in the sense is not that your subject knowledge only, but the way you present yourself, the way you interact with them, everything, your total persona should be so attractive that you should become a role model for them. If they look forward to your class, you have achieved what you like. When you say that you take it as a noble profession, you are there by choice, you have made a right choice. If they look forward to your class, and if you look forward to going to the class, both the ways, so that means you have achieved and your choice was a right choice. I just want you to, okay. Now we come to this part, building rapport. before going to this, I would like some interaction from your side. What is rapport? What is rapport? How do you define a rapport? Word rapport. Anyone?
Bonding. Bonding with
Just
students.
building a reputation that what is the teacher kind of, is she strict, or she is very polite, or she's very friendly, or she's so that the child feels comfortable.
No,
Connectedness.
yes, connectedness, yes,
Connecting.
A bonding with students.
bonding with
Bonding.
okay, rapport is bonding with students. Okay, so gelling with the students. See, rapport here, when we are talking about building rapport, is you have to see to it how you can connect with the students. Connecting with the students, that bonding, what is important. So now when you talk about this particular profession, see, we are talking about paths to effective pedagogy. So the path itself, we are not talking about pedagogy, the total path, which involves lot of things in between, lot of hurdles in between. Path will have hurdles, so we need to get into lot of rapport building with all those hurdles, just as we spoke about the challenges. So the challenges which are there, we have to have rapport with everyone. See, having rapport only with the children will not work. If you don't have rapport with your colleagues, if you don't have rapport with the management, it won't work, because you have good rapport with the children, but if you don't have good rapport with the management, so what happens, or your colleagues, at times you are not allowed, or you cannot get into doing what you want to do. So at times, little bit what you do there, you will be pinpointed, or you may not be allowed to do. When you talk about the rapport with the children is there, but rapport with parents is not there. That means, again, you have to have a battle there. So you need to see to it that we are talking about the holistic approach. We need to have rapport all round. And that rapport, when we talk about it, so initially what happens when we talk about two people having rapport, there are different activities what we get into to create that rapport. Now that rapport activity, like when we talk about if you are meeting a stranger, just as we talk about a rapport building activity, when we teach this in NLP to our clients, we talk about if you are going for to meet a stranger or whatever it is, first there are few steps which have to be taken into consideration to build rapport. That is where we talk about imaging and mirroring and all those things, where you try to grasp the way they talk, you try to emulate the way they talk, so that you build some rapport. But here we are not getting into that. We have many students there. We cannot keep on copying everyone, and we cannot keep on doing the way the child is doing, or we cannot get into. So here rapport is where we are talking about emotional connect with the child. So when you are emotionally connected with the child, or with the parent, or with the management, or with your colleagues, your journey becomes easier, right? So I guess all are here because I need some communication from your side to know that people are sitting there.
Yes.
Okay, so we proceed further. Okay, now how we need to understand the how we get into building rapport. So first, when we talk about the basics, or when we are talking about the pillars of this particular profession, they are students, parents, your management, and you. Four pillars of this particular profession. So first of all, the most important is our students. So how do we build rapport with them? Know their names. Knowing their names is very important. Though at times teachers come up when there are 50 or 60 in the class, it is difficult, and especially when you are not a class teacher. Class teachers, they get into knowing their names, but knowing their names works good. Like when you talk to them, when you address them with their names, that is the first connect what you can have. And especially when we talk about the primary class students, they really get attached to you if you call them by their names. Sometimes give them freedom to choose, though it is not always possible, but sometimes we can give them that choice. Now, for example, at times you can give them a choice of, okay, today we do grammar, or today we do writing skills, or today we do this particular topic, and going by the majority, though always it is not possible, and always we should not be doing, otherwise we won't be able to complete our syllabus. But sometimes, once in a while, they should be given the freedom of choice. Share healthy jokes, use your stories. Healthy jokes, like anyways, it is understood in this profession we need to maintain decorum. Every profession we need to maintain decorum, and particularly this profession, they are looking up to you. So we have to have some healthy jokes here and there. We should not have dry classes or have that stern look on our face. And use your stories. Like when saying that use your stories, it can be your story of failure. Talk to them, tell them about it, how you failed in this particular, maybe in particular class or in particular subject, in particular act. So what happens, they feel connected, they feel okay. If teacher can be, because for them teacher can do everything, or teacher is the superwoman or superman or whatever it is, and they don't feel they feel connected when they know that you are also like them, you have also failed sometime. And also share your success stories to motivate them. And even with your failure stories, they get motivated when you tell them, see, this is what happened, and today where am I'm teaching you. And maybe that particular subject itself which you are teaching, probably you didn't do good in school. So whatever it is, like sharing your own stories, or any example also. Now, like any example where you are trying to talk to them about their behavior pattern or something, and you have an example where you say, my son also does this, or my daughter also does this, so they feel connected. Learn from them. See, now today we know that children are quite tech savvy compared to what we are, or so sometimes we need to learn from them, sometimes we need to understand from them. And also, if we give them that type of feedback that, oh, I didn't know this, or maybe you try to take the help, they feel really good about it. And have innovative, creative approach. That is what we discussed earlier. We cannot teach them what they know. We cannot get into just making learning what they can learn on their own. So we have to have some creative approach. Talking about parents, how do we have rapport with parents? Because parents are, see, we need to understand their position as well. See, leaving their children, leaving their children in your hands, it's not easy, especially when we talk about even playgroup or primary school or wherever, whichever age it is. It's not easy. Just think about it. When you talk about even a daughter getting married, how does a parent feel sending them to a different home? So you are as a parent to them in this different home. So they do get paranoid at times. They do come up with unreasonable demands at times. We need to be very like smart enough to see to it that we don't make them come up with some way of offending them. But we also can at least put a step forward and say that, okay, this, whatever it is being done for the benefit of your child. So listen to respond, not to react. It should not happen that we are just sitting there to react. We need to understand what they are seeing, where from they are coming. As Asha ma'am said initially, that they come from different backgrounds. At times they don't understand what they are seeing. So we just become so aggressive and we come up with, you don't understand or whatever. That doesn't work. We need to understand them. So don't be defensive or aggressive. Give them a genuine feedback. Use euphemistic language. See, genuine feedback, when we say positive feedbacks, are always very good. So there you don't have to even manipulate or something. And when we talk about the negative feedback, there also you don't have to manipulate, because parents should get the exact feedback. They should know what is going on. We don't have to give them wrong feedbacks, but we have to use euphemistic language. Euphemistic language is what? Where we are talking about saying something in a polite way. For example, if you have to say that you need to talk about a child, saying that he's very naughty or something. So instead of saying he's very naughty, what you can say that he's very energetic and it is difficult to make him sit at one place. Parent gets the message that he is maybe he's disturbing the class or whatever it is. So not using the negative words. And even if for example a child is quite dull, he doesn't respond too much, so instead of saying your child is dull, he doesn't talk or he doesn't answer or whatever, he's quite shy, he needs to come out. So some sort of euphemistic language is required where you don't hurt their sentiments. See, for the parent, their child is the best one, and even for you, every child is good. They are coming up with different baggages, but we need to accept that, we need to understand that we cannot offend parents with offensive language. Build trust. That trust should be there. Parents should feel that their children are in safe hands. That trust will come up only when you give them that comfort. While talking about their child, yes, we are working on him, he will be good, he'll do, he has potentials. Coming up all those with all those motivating words would really help. Now, about colleagues, and when we talk about the management, we do have to have some rapport with them as well. We cannot move around saying that we have rapport with students and parents, and if you don't have rapport with the management or colleagues, if you are at loggerheads with them, then things won't be peaceful or comfortable. We need to respect them, we need to respect each other, because everyone has their own way of looking at things. No gossip. That should be like when you are in any workplace, there should be no gossip. That means whatever it is, maybe someone else comes to us saying that, we should not be showing any interest. Learn from them. Learning from each other is very important. Appreciate them. If someone is doing something good, something better, why to shy away from appreciating? Everyone likes appreciation. You also like, if someone comes to you, you would like to respond in a positive way. You would like to have appreciation. So why not appreciate others? Help each other, have some lighter moments together. That is also required. See, no gossip doesn't mean that we don't have lighter moments. Yes, we can enjoy, we can have celebrations, and we need to empathize. See, everyone is fighting their own battles. It is not that everyone is comfortable throughout. Some or the other battles are there. So we need to empathize, we need to respect, we need to be with people, we be with our colleagues, be with our management. At times, maybe we need to understand something goes wrong, some sort of stalemate happening. We need to understand from where is the person coming. Maybe something went wrong. Instead of labeling, or instead of just carrying that, better clarify. Okay, we move ahead. This is what is the requirement. Explore the unexplored. Dare to choose the road not taken and make all the difference. This is very important. See, though whenever we speak to teachers, they come up with that, when you talk about the school schedule, we are in such a watertight compartment. We cannot have our own ways, we cannot explore, but that is not done. You have to find out simple topic which is there in the syllabus. There you can come up with something else, which some other way of teaching it. Why we go by only the conventional method, the cliched method? We can have something else, and we find that turns out to be good. We need to experiment. It's not always necessary that our experiments will come out to be right. We will learn from those experiments or experiences, and we can change our way. But that doesn't mean that we shy away from experimenting, or we feel that no, I'm scared, I want to go by the safe mode, I don't want to be adventurous. And times even people come up, I'm not adventurous, I'm satisfied, I'm contented. No, saying that I'm contented is just a way of saying that I don't want to do, I don't want to improve upon my skills. You need to improve upon your skills. You yourself feel like stagnant if you are going with the same way. So find something better which can be good for them, as well as you feel good about it. And maybe at times others will start emulating you. Other co-teachers may start copying your methods. Understand their strengths and limitations. This is now what we are talking about children. We need to understand their strengths and limitations. We know that they come from different backgrounds. That is one thing. We also know that everyone is an individual. Some may be, when you have 30 students in class, all 30 are not of the same level. You are one teacher, you are teaching them, you find that 10 students are doing good, but maybe the other 10 are quite mediocre.
Yeah.
We are talking talking about, they are all are individuals, they have their strengths, they have their limitations. Some student might do good in some other subject, or maybe the way of doing may be different. Now, for example, a student, like when we talk about their skills, so when we talk about it in, we use the term as VECOG in NLP. We call it, some have some are visually strong, some are kinesthetically strong, some are, or some have auditory strength. So maybe some like working with hands and do the thing, some are orally fine, some can hear, listen better, and then they can incorporate and improvise. So we need to respect everyone, we need to understand them. See, now when we talk about, for example, if you have bananas, once you peel the bananas, what are you going to get? You are going to get a banana only. You are not going to get a kiwi. You feel that I want all the nutrients which kiwi has, or the taste which kiwi has along with the banana. That is not possible. So if you have a banana, expect the banana only, and see to it that you can do whatever best you can do with the banana. Either you have it as a fruit salad, either you have it as a banana shake, or whatever it is, you have to work on the banana itself, but don't expect to give you the results or the flavor of a kiwi. So that is what it is with students. We need to be sensitive towards them. We need to understand that they are individuals, they come from different backgrounds, they have their strengths, and we have to evaluate them, and accordingly we can proceed with them. Now here, I'll just want to stop for a second. We have an exercise on your on the sensitivity scale. To understand your sensitivity scale or your sensitivity strength, how many are in to do that? We need just 2 minutes for it. How many of you would like to do that, so that we can do it now? If you are not interested, we can do it later with the ones who would like to get into it. I just want to see the see hands, or maybe thumbs up or hand, whatever you want to show me. If you are interested, we'll have it now, or we have it later for the ones who will continue later. So only 4 of you are there who would like to get into this. Okay, so what we do is, Dr. Pradeep, I didn't understand what you, so since we see only 4 or 5 are interested, we'll be doing it later. Maybe because if everyone doesn't come up with, then there's no point doing some activity where people are not participating, right? Okay, so we proceed further, and these 4, those who had raised their hands, will have this activity. Activity in the sense, there's a question at which you will get into it, and ultimately you get the result to understand what is your sensitivity level. Okay, so we proceed further now. Okay, now here, as we said, that we need to understand their strengths, and we also need to accept their model of the world. Everyone has their own model of the world, be it your colleagues, be it your the family members, or whatever. Here we need to understand, we need to accept their model of the world. We need to understand that this is what they love, this is what is their passion, and this is what they understand. So we have to accept that it's not necessary that what is your right can be right for everyone, or what is their wrong can be wrong for you. So we need to accept, and we need to respect them. And how do we do that? We need to take care of them. We need to be compassionate towards them, be it any level. It's not that we are talking about playgroup children, or primary, or secondary, or college going children. We need to take care of them because they are going through a lot of physical and hormonal changes as well. We need to be compassionate towards them. We need to understand them. We need to respect them. When we say respect, it is not only elders, everyone deserves respect, and we have to see to it that we respect them. We need to empower them. We are here to empower them. Teachers are there to empower them. We don't have to bring them down or make them feel bad. We, on the contrary, have to empower them so that they feel good about themselves. We need to appreciate every single move. It's not that whatever they are saying, see, for example, if they are just coming up with a poetry recitation or a presentation, whatever, there could be certain glitches here and there. We find some spelling errors here and there, but we need to appreciate their efforts, and in a polite way we can say these are the places where you could have improved, and next time I know you are going to do better, but you were great. We need to motivate them. We don't have to demotivate them by coming up with their faults or whatever. We need to motivate them in various ways. Just as I said, telling your own story can be motivating enough. We don't have to go to big like celebrities or any such stories. Any story, anyone who's just moving around, we can talk about them, we can motivate them, we can also motivate them by helping them or being with them. So all this together, it becomes cream. So as we say that, see, what we do when we have students in class, we always talk about cream. We say we have the tag cream for the ones who are doing academically great, or we talk about someone who is doing, maybe in sports also someone is doing great, but basically someone who is doing good in everything, we call them as cream students. We try to pay more attention to them. No, every child is a cream. We have to see to it that we know that we have to accept their model of the word. We need to understand them, we need to appreciate them, we need to be with them and treat everyone as a cream. So this is what it is. Every child is like a butterfly in the wind. Some can fly higher than others, but each one flies the best it can. Why compare one against the other? Each one is different, each one is special, each one is beautiful. So just as we say, at times when we are comparing oranges, you should compare oranges to oranges or not oranges to apples. So here we have oranges, apples, bananas, kiwis, everyone. So we have to see to it that we respect them and we make them as, if they don't feel themselves as cream, we have to see to it that we make them feel like cream. Okay, now here we come up to this. This is for you, for teachers, for yourself. Every now and then you have to get into this. This is what is SWOT. SWOT is SWOT analysis. What we say is your strength, weakness, threats and opportunities. So you have to get into it. You have to understand see, it's not for teachers, it goes in every profession. Every now and then you have to get into it. You don't have to be complacent enough. You don't have to be contented with whatever you have. You don't have to be satisfied with whatever you have. You should always have that urge. What we say, we should always have that hunger. Stay hungry, stay foolish, as we say. You should not feel that, okay, I'm done, I have done everything. No, there's a lot of scope. We can do a lot of things. So knowing your strength, knowing your weakness and also threats, we need to understand we are working, we have threats as well. We need to overcome those threats. So how do we overcome those threats? There could be some opportunities here and there. So here what we will have just one example put up here, but this you have to do it for yourself. Now, when we talk about strengths, for example, your strength could be you are perseverant enough, you have leadership qualities, you are a collaborator, good collaborator, you are creative, you are compassionate. These could be your strengths. Supposing I tell you now to come up with your strengths, you will have a lot of strengths. You maybe initially you will take time to think, but ultimately you will find a huge list, right? And then when we talk about the weakness, everyone has weaknesses as well. Not saying that I don't have, no. Someone may lack technical skills, someone may have fear of public speaking. So that doesn't mean that you don't have leadership qualities. See, public speaking and leadership qualities cannot be taken as like when you say that if you have leadership skill, you should have public speaking. No, public speaking here we are saying when you are talking to people, when you are like people having stage fear. Leadership qualities, yes, in a team you can work as a leader, you can collaborate well. Then too much of self expectation, that is also a weakness. Sometimes people have that, right? Then talking about your threat, colleagues good at technical skills could be a threat. If you don't have technical skills, then you feel them as a threat because they have some edge over you. Public speaking, who are good at public speaking, who are better qualified. Paranoid parents become a threat, right? And then when we talk about the opportunities, everyone has opportunities also. We have to see to it what are the opportunities available. We cannot just brood over saying that I have these weaknesses. How do I progress? We can learn from others. We need to, there are a lot of online courses going on right now also. People say this particular period when we are in lockdown and what can we do? We have classes, this, that, but there are a lot of online classes going on, online courses going on. You can upgrade yourself. You can use your creativity skills. skill, supposing that is your strength. So maybe you, with your creativity skills, you can stand out. Even if you have the fear of public speaking, some event is going on in the school, you will find your creativity will is better than others. So maybe you get that stage, you will get that importance. So anyways, those opportunities are there where you can make a difference. You can be visible. You have to be visible. That is what is important. Now, do you suffer from imposter syndrome? This is what I want you to ask. Yes. What is an imposter syndrome? Can anyone explain? What is an imposter syndrome? Does anyone know about it? No?
Yeah, maybe you're trying to portray yourself as someone whom you are really not. Like, you're trying to emulate someone else.
It's slightly different from this. See, when you talk about imposter syndrome is like when you, in a layman's term, I would like to say, like if at times when we say that you are good at a lot of things, but you don't want to accept that. Why you don't want to accept that? Because you don't have confidence. You feel others are better than me. You feel others know better than me. For example, you have done something, you are getting appreciation as well, but you feel that this is probably not the genuine appreciation. People are trying to pacify me, or they are just trying to see to it that I don't get demotivated, and they have come up with this type of feedback. Even if you have done good, you are not ready to accept it. You are not ready to accept it internally. The imposter is someone sitting inside you who's not allowing you to accept yourself. Yes, Indra ma'am, you want to say something?
Ma'am, can it be self-doubting? You doubt
Yes,
your own self?
yes, it is something close to self-doubting. Yes. See, self-doubting also when we are not confident about it, and also it is like we feel that for example, you are putting lot of efforts in doing something, and when you are putting lot of efforts in doing something, and when you are being appreciated and all that, you are not ready to take the credit, and you say it was a teamwork, right? That is fine. That is out of humility you are saying, because team members were there. You don't want to come up and say that yes, I did it. You are giving importance to everyone, so that is humility. But if you have done really something where you are being appreciated and you say no, it's not like that, we are not ready to take compliments, right? See, in simple way to say that you are not accepting the compliments, and you feel that at times even when you do something, you feel that I'll be caught, I am a fraud in the sense I have not genuinely put in all the efforts, and people are saying so much. When you have done something good, why this imposter? So this is called an imposter syndrome, which is sitting inside you, which is pulling you back, and which is not allowing you to enjoy your performance. You have done something great, but you are not ready to enjoy, thinking that no, it is not something great. That is what is imposter syndrome, and everyone has that. It's not that people someone says that no, but it depends on to what extent you have. Sometimes that is fine, but every time, like, you don't have that confidence, we talk about it as a lack of self confidence, or your self esteem is low, that you don't want to accept it. So here we move forward. So imposter syndrome is just like, it is your assumption what I know and what I think others know. So you feel that I don't know, others know a lot, and I am the one who doesn't know too much. We even at times try to just judge people by their way they talk, or by looking into their certificates and all that. Okay, they know so much, but what we know we are not ready to accept. And reality could be that what others know and what you know are almost similar, maybe in certain cases similar, but when you talk about the extent, it is not that they are too good or you are too bad. So maybe you are, and both of you know know the same thing, and here you had in mind and you were suffering, thinking that I am the one who doesn't know too much. Now, how to overcome this imposter syndrome? This has to be overcome, because if we keep on living with this, we won't enjoy our success, plus we won't be able to give our 100%, because we are throughout bugged by this virus, which keeps on telling us that you are not done good, and people are just appreciating you, you know that you haven't done better, whatever it is. So we need to overcome this. So this is you need to understand, know your signs. You need to know your signs when this particular syndrome is troubling me. So you need to know when some such thought comes to your mind, that no, you have to understand those thoughts, like you are not ready to accept it, you are not enjoying your success, you are not enjoying the appreciations, you are not enjoying the compliments, and you are still longing for, you feel I'm not good at it. So those are all the signs. After all your efforts, if you are not enjoying that, talk to your mentor or support system. Anyone could be your mentor or support system. It could be your spouse, it could be your colleague, it could be your child, maybe even your grown-up child could be your support system, with whom you can talk and understand that and get the feedback from them. Be kind to yourself. You need to be kind to yourself. Kind to yourself means you don't have to pester yourself so much, you don't have to be guilty so much. You need to understand that you have done your best. Distinguish humility and fear. Just as I said that, okay, if you are with a team and you said that it was a team effort and you are being humble, that is fine. But if you are not accepting something with the fear that no, I haven't done anyways, and they are just saying, that is wrong. Say yes to opportunities. So mentors will help you, they will show you the opportunities, and you have to accept those opportunities. You have to move ahead and track your success. Track your success. How do you track your success? You need to set a goal, you need to plan, and you need to keep on seeing that are you following that plan. And just forget about this imposter which is trying to pull you hard. Now, perception is reality. How many of you accept this? Perception is reality.
Up to some extent, that works. Perception is reality.
Up to certain extent. Okay. Dr. Pradeep, would you like to say something? Would you like to say something here? Perception is reality. Do you accept this?
Yes, yes. Only it has to be pursued.
Anyone
Like
else
what
would like?
it's like what you keep
Not
thinking,
every
what
time,
you
ma'am.
keep perceiving that's what becomes the reality.
That becomes the reality. What you think about yourself, how you feel about yourself, that becomes the reality.
And it starts reflecting in your behavior, in your attitude, and then it becomes the reality.
Then it becomes a reality. So you start thinking about it. Now here what we are saying that supposing we talk about something like how you see yourself. Here we are talking even about ourselves.
Actually, this depends on our belief system.
This depends.
How strong believe in ourselves.
Great. So this is basically about your belief system. Now how you believe yourself, how you take yourself, and how you talk about yourself, that is what is important. Now, like for example, when we say what matters most is how you see yourself. Even if a cat, she sees herself as a lion, like that is what it is. I'm strong enough, I can fight. Similarly, we talk about this talking about pessimistic and optimistic attitude. Like if you see some half full or half empty glass, as we talk about it. So perception is where we are, like it is not only about our attitude towards the thing, it can be our attitude towards even children. See, here I'll just come up with a small story here. There was a case study where almost 10 students were taken to a class in the sense where there was some different teacher who never used to teach them, and that particular teacher was told, 10-15 some number of students were there, that teacher was told that these are the children who are sort of slow learners, they have a separate teacher, and probably that teacher has gone for 3 months for some maternity leave or something, so you need to take care of them, you need to teach them and see whatever best you can do for them, right? So that particular teacher took up the challenge. She said okay, and like maybe after 3 months, whatever it is, when they had their unit test and all that, those children, all of them got C grade. Now, same set of students were taken again to the next teacher, and they were told that these are the gifted children. Their teacher has gone on maternity leave for 3 months. You have to take care and give them whatever best you can. They are the gifted ones. You won't need much of efforts and all that. And after 3 months, when their result came up, all of them were B plus and A plus. So now here students were same. What happened? Like why the results changed? Because the teacher who was given that input that these are slow learners, or you do whatever best you can do, so she perceived that way. She took them as slow learners. She didn't give them enough. She treated them in that manner that they won't anyways take it whatever I give. So she finished up with the thing, and the other teacher felt that they are the gifted ones, they need extra. She took in extra effort. She tried to make things better for them, and they got good grades. So same set of children being taught by different teachers got different results. Why? Because they perceived that way. Something was put in their mind, and they went by it, that these are the gifted children, and the other teacher went by it that they won't anyway learn. Let me just finish off the task. So this is when you perceive something, and even about yourself, if you start believing, you act in that manner, and ultimately things happen. I'll just share a small video here. Just a minute. Sorry. Okay, some technical glitches. Just let me know the sound thing.
If someone tells you you're going to have a disease and you believe that, then you can create the disease. Perception can rewrite the genetic code. So perception controls life. No two people see the world in the same way. They have different perceptions. And sometimes your perceptions can be right, and sometimes your perceptions can be wrong. Since perception controls biology, and since they can be right or wrong, then it's more accurate to say that belief controls biology. What you believe creates your life, on the inside and on the outside. You're not a victim of your genetics. You are responsible for what unfolds in your life. The placebo effect is when you have a very positive thought that something can heal you, even if it's a sugar pill, but you believe it's the real medicine, then you can heal yourself with that. So the pill didn't heal you, it was the thought that healed you. There is negative thinking, and it's called the nocebo effect. And in the same power that positive thinking can heal you, negative thinking can kill you. So if we were growing up and programmed with stronger beliefs, we would be more powerful than we are now. When you are conscious, you can rewrite the instincts, and when you become conscious, you can rewrite the experiences of your life. So that it is important to recognize that what we are not using enough of in our world today is consciousness.
So this is what it is. So perception is reality. Perception becomes the reality. Whatever we think, whatever we believe. So ultimately, as teachers, we need to have confidence in ourselves. We need to see to it that we perform, and when we perform, that means we have to be satisfied with our work. We should feel good. We should feel happy when we are with our children, or when you call them as students or children, which now see, initially we spoke about having rapport with parents, having rapport with students, rapport with management, but what about rapport with yourself? See, at times we forget ourselves. That is what is required to be in that shape, to be in a proper shape, and then dealing with others. That is like, as you have that cliched example, always we have that example, traveling in an aeroplane. If the oxygen mask comes down, first you have to take care of yourself, then you give it to others, be it your child. So here, if you are in proper shape, then only can you take care of students or parents or management or whatever it is. So you have to have good rapport with yourself. You need to have good bonding with yourself. Now for that you need to take out time, do whatever makes you happy. Do whatever makes you happy means saying that we don't have time doesn't work. Everyone has time. You need to do some writing, reading, dancing, whatever is like your passion. Do that. That helps you to, like when we talk about those dopamine and endorphin, all these hormones, they have those happy hormones, those positive hormones, they help you to perform better. Unburden yourself to a friend or anyone, like maybe your soulmate. If something is troubling you, talking is what is required. Don't refrain from talking. Exercise anyways, just as we talk about, some amount of exercise is required. Self-analysis, that's what we spoke about. Every now and then you have to get into self-analysis to find out where am I going wrong, or what better can I do. Not to be contented with whatever you have. You need to move ahead. Stop being, once in a while give yourself benefit of doubt. So if anything happens, don't just try to blame yourself, or if something goes wrong, fine. If anything has gone wrong, it is not a failure, it is just a feedback. We need to understand, like, okay, what went wrong, think about it, retrospect, self-introspection, and move ahead instead of sitting and just brooding and feeling guilty. Learn to delegate responsibilities. That is very important. See, at times what happens, we want to do everything. Getting into multitasking, that is good. But sometimes you need to delegate responsibilities. Now, for example, when we are talking about, you have a lot of challenges in school. So you have support system at home. So try to delegate some responsibilities instead of feeling guilty of not doing something. One fine day, if you don't do one particular act, maybe making a breakfast or helping someone or whatever, due to your overwork schedules, it is fine not to feel guilty about it. And delegating, even in school, if something is required where you can delegate responsibilities where it is possible, do that. And have some me time, because you also need some expert advice. No, so talk to yourself. You are the expert. That is what is important. You need to have some time for yourself. So like when we say sitting and thinking about something, or just smiling, enjoying doing something where you are into it, or where it's not necessary that you should have someone else with you. Just having time with yourself, that is very important, and that has to be there. Student-teacher relationship, when we say happy teachers will have happy students, just as we said, if you are happy, you can make others happy. If you are not happy, you are struggling, you are in pain, you cannot make someone else happy. That is what we are talking about, sensitivity scale, skills as well, or that sensitivity scale. If you are quite sensitive enough, sensitive in the positive sense, then you will be able to understand, you'll be able to empathize. And once you are happy, you can make your students happy. Students don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. See, your knowledge is important, but if you feel that you come up with n number of degrees and stand in the class with that stern face and start boasting about you, you cannot have rapport, you cannot have connect with them. If you care for them and you don't have all those flowery qualifications, but you are comfortable with your subject matter, they'll get connected. They know you care for them. They'll come to you with their problems as well. You are a counselor to them. You are a parent to them. That is what is required. So building relationships with students is by far the most important thing a teacher can do. This is what is important. You need to build relations. See, when we talk about pedagogy, this is what is important. Relation between teacher and student, that is of utmost importance. Yes, your relation with management, your relation with parents, everything is important, but relation with children, with students is very important. And without proper foundation, proper test, teaching is not going to happen. We talk about quality teaching, we say it is we talk about innovation, we talk about creativity. We don't have that trust, if you don't have that bonding with your children, with your students, students, learning is not going to happen. So whatever best you carry the best of presentations, you carry best of teaching aids, you have all the knowledge under the sky, you do all good research, but if you don't have good relation with your students, learning is not going to happen. So part to effective pedagogy is going through students, parents, management, and yourself as well. That is what is important. So this is what I had to say. And sorry, this part anyways, just a minute, we'll skip this for now. And from my side, this is what I had to communicate. If there are any questions, I'm open for that. We can talk about it. And if there is anything else which Radhika you would like to say, and for that sensitivity scale, if those who want to get into it, we'll have that as well. And thanks a lot for your patient listening, and would say that you were like quite a wonderful audience, though I couldn't see anyone. I thanks a lot, Asha and Indra ma'am and Dr. Pradeep, all of you for being there and being there throughout, and rest of you also. I hope everyone was there throughout. And if anything is there, any questions you can come up with, I'm open for that. Yes, Radhika.
Thanks, ma'am. It was a wonderful session. You explained very clearly each and everything. I personally attended your full session, and it was a very wonderful session. And thanks for your valuable time and effort.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
And
My
for
pleasure.
all the participants, I already shared a feedback form in the chat box. Kindly fill that form for your certificate and for the attendance purpose as well. Thank you.
And if those who are leaving, that is fine. Some of them wanted to go with that test. So can we have 5 minutes more for them?
Yeah, sure, ma'am. No doubt. You can have.
Okay.
Your session was very much the need of the hour.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Exactly. That's what I also wanted to say.
Okay, thank you. So those who want to stay back for that test can stay back, rest can leave. Thanks a lot. Thank you, everyone. It will take just 2 minutes for that test as well, so that at least you get some feel about it.
Radhika, is there any link that you have shared for the feedback? Yeah, I got it. Thank you. Sorry.
Should we first fill the feedback, ma'am? Or
Once you will fill the feedback form, you will get the automatic certificate.
Okay. Now I was waiting for the activity actually.
Okay. I know. I'm putting up that here, so those who want to do can do it.
Okay.
Just a minute. Just a minute.